Good evening and welcome to the Jackson File special edition with a sit-down interview with the very own President Barack Obama. How are you doing tonight, Mr. President? How are you doing tonight, Mr. President? You there, Mr. President? Okay, well, we're going to cut to a quick break while we wait on President Barack Obama. Stay tuned to the Jackson File. And welcome back to the Jackson File, exclusive sit-down with President Barack Obama. How are you doing tonight, President?
I'm doing great. How about you?
I'm actually doing very good tonight. I mean, I'm really over the moon to just sit down. Yep, to just sit down with you and just get to talk to you for my show, which is just amazing. Now, tonight we're just going to talk about a variety of topics, but I want to start out with kind of a sad note tonight, and that is Ed Hastings. Now, I know a few months ago or a few weeks ago, stuff before you became president, he said that he was going to be your right-hand man in the administration. And noting that he passed away last night, I mean, I guess just how are you feeling about that?
Look, this whole administration is distraught at Hastings' death. He was a friend to everybody. He was a wonderful man, and I enjoyed working with him, along with the rest of the national security team. And he's irreplaceable, and his memory will long roam throughout the White House, and and he's just been a huge inspiration to everybody here at the White House. He was a great man. He will be missed.
Oh, totally. I mean, when I saw that he had been involved in that horrific car crash last night, I mean, confirmed dead at 54, I just am praying for his family and everybody around him. Just a sad, sad moment in AP tonight, or last night. Now, I want to move on to the Middle East. Now, in the recent weeks, we've seen the Middle East just becoming a little more unstable, and I know that's probably our greatest threat to America right now. So, how are you and your administration planning to deal with the Middle East and Afghanistan and countries like that?
First of all, I want to talk about the big decision to remove thousands of troops from Iraq. Um, to get more into detail, we've decided to remove 40,000 non-essential military personnel from Iraq, and keeping special forces and uh, uh, militants who are necessary to securing our interest and combating terrorists. Now, the war in Afghanistan, the war on terror, has been strengthened, and we are still refocusing our efforts on defeating Al Qaeda and capturing Osama bin Laden and pushing back the Taliban.
Now,
Um,
oh,
Go
sorry.
ahead. No, go ahead.
When you say the war has been strengthened, what do you mean by that?
We're refocusing we're putting more effort into the war in Afghanistan. There's a lot more activity present there, and especially when it comes to Al Qaeda and Bin Laden, we definitely want to focus on capturing him and making sure that the Taliban or Al Qaeda take control of Afghanistan. We absolutely do not want any of that. So we're trying hard to push our efforts towards Afghanistan, the true war on terror, but there still does remain troops in Iraq, so that there can be some type of stabilization still. But as I said, we have withdrawn non-essential troops from Iraq.
Do you think that by withdrawing those troops, that shows the terrorists and stuff like that they might have an opportunity to regain control, or not really?
They don't have an opportunity, and as I said, there still remains American troops in Iraq, essential troops, who are still working to find those terrorists and bring them to justice. We have not completely withdrawn from Iraq, and that probably won't happen in the next 4, 8, or 16 years. There's still danger present, but we still need to withdraw withdraw some amount of troops because as you know, I've opposed the war in Iraq for quite some time. I've talked about it on the Senate floor and all of our issues with it, but the war in Afghanistan really needs to be strengthened and focused on a lot more. And that's what my administration will do. And we will look to bring Osama bin Laden to justice and all those terrorists who committed those heinous acts on 9/11, taking all those lives. And we plan to bring all of them to justice.
Now, say you do come in contact with Osama bin Laden, is it going to be a capture mission or a kill mission?
Look, we're going to capture him if we can. If he poses a threat to the lives of the American troops who are going in to capture him, then they should absolutely take the shot if their lives are in danger. But if we have the opportunity, capturing him is our priority. It would be an outcome we would hope for.
So you would rather capture him than have him killed?
Absolutely.
Okay, that's understandable. Now, I want to move on now to the economy. Now, the economy's been in the news headlines for a while now, and it's coming back up steadily. But when you first came into office, our economy was kind of in shambles. So what is your administration doing, and what are y'all planning to do to fix this economy and bring it back up?
Well, that's a great question, Parker. Look, I've talked about it over the campaign, a $1.1 trillion economic stimulus package to at least turn our country around and put it on the right step forward towards long-term economic stability and growth. We've been meeting a lot with the House and Senate Democrats in Congress. House and Senate Democrats and also Republicans to discuss further our plans for rescuing our economy and trying to put in some type of legislation to kickstart the growth, kickstart a path towards long-term stability. And I want to talk to you about that. Number one, there would be a 580 billion growth in spending on infrastructure, on healthcare, on agriculture, on so much more. These social programs, social benefits, and then whatever is left over will be used for tax relief, which we have estimated to benefit 90% of working families. And we've also included tax incentives for individuals and companies. And this is really just a big step towards making some type of progress in terms of our economy. Now, this won't save the economy. This is just one of the many pieces of legislation that we'll be implementing to get our country back on track and create some long-term growth.
So
go ahead.
So by the end of the term, where would you like by the end of your term, where would you like to see the economy?
Oh, we definitely like to see it be as it was during the Clinton administration, where our economy was amazing. Markets were booming. Competition within the business sector was booming. Americans had stable jobs, and economy was really going somewhere. That's where my administration wants to return to, and maybe even better.
Now, what do you think by the end of the year? Where would you like to see the economy by the end of the year?
With this legislation we're implementing, there's definitely going to be a drastic turnaround, but we won't be fully there. It'll take some time. Growth and change and stability takes time. It doesn't occur in just 1 minute. Not after I sign the legislation with the stroke of my pen. It takes time, and that's what I want Americans to know: that stability takes time, and we'll get there. And in time, Americans will have the growth that is well needed, as deep as we are into this recession.
Yeah, and before we were talking about, you said that you have been meeting with Congress and talking about plans for the rescue of the economy. What exactly have y'all been talking about in those meetings?
We've been going over the specifics and concerns that they may have, and so far, when with the Democrats at least, they have no concerns. Same with the Republicans; they have no concerns, and they have a lot of faith in the American Recovery and Reinvestment Act, along with the following bill that we're looking to introduce, which our Secretary of the Treasury has been working very hard on to, uh, you know, follow the ARRA. So we have we have a lot of legislation incoming, and I think that both Democrats and Republicans are on board to pass this legislation.
Yeah, and now while we're on the topic of the economy, I want to talk about the minimum wage. Now, there's been a lot of news articles saying that you're planning on raising the minimum wage, or y'all are trying to do something with the minimum wage. Are those true?
Uh, Look, I think Americans who work long and hard should deserve deserve the amount that they've worked for. We should be we should be paying people based on how hard they work. You could work your tail off for uh, 15 or 24 hours or somewhat, just working overtime, really putting your effort into your job. You should be paid for your effort. Um, Now, if I worked for 20 hours working at a McDonald's and still get paid diddly squat, nothing, that would be definitely a concern to me. I put my most effort. I put my most effort into trying to do the job effectively, and I get little out of it. I personally believe that it's wrong, and I can't promise anything here about the minimum wage. But what I can say is that we should definitely be uh, paying people based on their effort.
If you were to raise a minimum wage, where would you like it to stand? At what number would you like that to be the minimum wage?
Look, we want to increase the minimum wage. Might go up, it might not during this recession, but we would like it to increase, uh, not substantially, but somewhat where we can see change for working families, so that they don't have to, uh, you know, uh, work so much and come home with little, can't even put food on the table. We just want to get the minimum wage to a point where Americans can feel secure and stable with their finances. And I also want to say that with the legislation we're looking to implement, um, if I could talk more about the package that we're looking to introduce, if that's okay with you.
That's perfectly fine.
Um, it'll give a $237 billion tax incentive for individuals. It'll include a 116 billion new payroll tax credit of $400 per worker and $800 per couple for 2009 and 2010. I also want to announce there'll be a $15 billion increase, or not increase, expansion of the child tax credit, the $1,000 credit to more families, even to those that do not make enough money to pay income taxes, and a $14 billion to expand college credit to provide a $250,000 expanded tax credit for college tuition and related expenses for 2009 and 2010. Now, the White House plans on releasing a fact sheet about the Recovery Act for Americans to go over their facts. And the bill is still in work. It's definitely a lot of pages so far, but we're looking to introduce it between March, or for it to hit the floor by March. And during the meetings we've had with Democrats, we're looking to pass it relatively quickly.
Do you believe that you will see this bill on your desk to sign, or do you not think it will pass through some of the processes?
If it wasn't going to pass through, we wouldn't have proposed it. We wouldn't have out all these meetings about the time frame in which we want to move. We wouldn't propose anything that wouldn't pass. That'd be a waste of time. And what I think that the American people are running out of is time.
Yeah, and I mean, that's going to be something to watch out for, especially the economy. And all I can say is that I hope we start to grow our economy in the future. Now, I want to move on to another topic, and that's just going to be our national security right now. Now, earlier in the year and last year, we saw a few terrorist attacks happening at the Capitol, attacks happening on the Capitol. And I spoke to some of the high-end people in the government that ran the national security and stuff like that. They said that we have a low national security rate as of now just because of all the attacks. Now, how is America standing on national security, and what do you think the biggest threats to our country are right now?
Well, it's obviously terrorism. We've seen an uptick in terrorism, and I also want to say gun violence. We want to strengthen our response in regards of terrorism. Especially domestic terrorism. We want to prevent any attacks on our soil from happening again, like the ones we saw on 9/11. That was absolutely horrific. And I'm looking to expand the role of the Department of Homeland Security, because there is a lot of ways that there are a lot of things that we're lacking in terms of protecting our country, internally and externally. And I also want to address gun violence, because when I was a state senator and when I lived in Chicago, there's you couldn't even go a week without hearing about a shooting or that an individual has died, especially young people who are often the the people you see on the news dying at the hands of gun violence and gang violence. Um, Station will address this down the road about gun violence and addressing it nationwide. Uh, it's disheartening to know that even even in a town with 100,000 people, there still on goes a shooting every once in a while, and it's disheartening to hear about any shooting that happens, and especially those within our schools. School shootings are horrible, and there definitely needs to be a way to uh, prevent any of them from happening. So
Would you support gun restrictions?
I would support universal background checks to make sure that these guns don't end up in the hands of convicted felons and the people who have a history with mental health problems. I think that's a common solution that both Democrats and Republicans could support. It doesn't completely restrict your right to bear arms, but there needs to be some type of restriction so any Looney Tune doesn't get their hands on an AR-15 and goes to a little elementary school to shoot up some children. That's what nobody wants that. And I'd say that people who support the Second Amendment would agree that we don't want any of that to happen. So I believe
Yeah,
Republicans and Democrats can find common ground on common sense gun solutions.
yeah, and you brought up just gun violence. In fact, in Chicago right now, Chicago's in the middle of a crime wave. So, I mean, just how are you planning, and how is your administration planning on dealing with this impulse of crime coming into our major cities and some of our smaller cities as well? I mean, there are children being killed on the streets, young kids, teenagers, even up to seniors being killed and murdered on the street. So, how do you plan on dealing with that?
There needs to be comprehensive reform in our legal and justice system. You know, as a lawyer, you get to witness these cracks in our judicial system up close. And we also want to address these courts, these types of courts that often unfairly treat and persecute young black men and women, and just uh, black people in general. If I'm being honest here. Um,
When you say
so
unfairly, can you describe that?
unfairly.
Yes, when you say unfairly.
I'm going to speak from experience. I don't think you should go to jail for smoking a blunt and on the porch of your house. Nobody needs to go to jail for that, especially prison. You shouldn't be imprisoned for doing drugs. You should be rehabilitated. I believe in rehabilitation for people who do these. I can't even call it petty crimes. It's not a crime at all. But I think they should be rehabilitated if they do drugs. Um, people who do drugs are unfairly treated by our system, and they should be rehabilitated instead of punished and imprisoned.
All right, I can see where you're coming from on that. Thank you, Mr. President. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back. Thank you for watching the Jackson File Presidential Special. Welcome back to the Jackson File inaugural episode, as well as a sit-down interview special with President Barack Obama. Again, thank you for joining me, President Obama. Always a pleasure. Now, before the break, we talked about big issues such as gun control, terrorism, the economy, stuff like that. So, just have a few more questions for you tonight, and one of them is on abortion. So, where do you stand with abortion, Mr. President?
Well, as a Democrat, and as someone who respects the Constitution, I believe that a woman has full autonomy over her body. Absolutely, I believe they do have full autonomy over the body. The government should not be in the business of, a pregnant woman who wishes to, terminate her pregnancy. I don't believe that's any of our business, and I personally, it's just none of our business, to be frank with you.
So, are you saying that you do support abortion?
I do.
Now, you see, this is where it kind of gets to where the side and side. Now, I know most Democrats do support abortion, but then if you take a look at the other side, you see the other side of things. Now, I know most Republicans say that if you are, let's say, responsible enough to get pregnant and you do not want the child, then maybe you should have the child. And now I also see where Democrats are coming from, because also you don't want a child walking around with no parent that they don't know in adoptions facilities for their entire life, stuff like that. But do you believe that there's a way to compromise with abortion, or do you think that it should always be that way?
We'll compromise when we can. And can I add on to what you said earlier? I also do believe in our education systems that there should be, you know, reforms in how we educate our children about sex education. And, you know, I believe we should be enforcing or teaching them how to safely have sex instead of teaching them. I mean, we should continue teaching them abstinence, but we should also keep teaching them on how to, or should teach them on how to safely have sex. And
Which one do you think is more important to teach? How to safely have sex or abstinence?
how to safely have sex, definitely.
I think that's where we have common ground there as well. Now, also, do you think it is a compromise to say, well, if the baby gets this far along, then it's too late to terminate it? Or would you still consider that, no, you should be able to do that?
Well, there still is a little confliction there, but I'd have to get back to you because there is still a lot to ponder about that, and you know what should be the cutoff date for abortions. Well, and I also just want to say, when you first get that little pregnancy test, I don't think it should take you about 3 or 4 months to determine whether you want to have an abortion. If I'm going to be honest here, but for some women it might take that long, but there's still a lot to uncover about the whole abortion thing. But for right now, will proclaim that I believe full abortion should be an option for women to take.
All right, and thank you for sharing your views on that. Now, another topic is going to be the Illinois governor trying to sell your seat. How do you feel about that?
I don't believe. I believe the American people should decide who gets my seat. Political seats shouldn't be sold. It's not a little item you can pick off of a shelf in a 7-Eleven. It's something that the American people hold dear, especially the people of Illinois, electing their representation, not letting their governor buy or sell it to whoever has the money. That's not real representation. And some might even call it corruption, which I will call it.
I would agree with you. Do you believe that the governor should be impeached and criminally charged?
Well, I'm not going to say anything, but I will say it's corrupt, and it's up to the Illinois state legislature to know what they want to do with that.
Would you consider corruption being somewhere you could be criminally charged for?
You should be criminally charged for corruption. You should. It shouldn't just be a political punishment. It should be legal punishment too.
All right, thank you, Mr. President. That's all of our questions for you tonight. Now, Mr. President, any last words you'd like to say before we wrap it up?
I just want to say this. Thank you for any American listening tonight, and I just want you to know that your government is hard at work trying to help us recover from this recession, and that I can promise you here tonight that relief is on the way, help is on the way, and we're working hard towards long-term stability. Thank you.
That's great to know, and that's going to wrap up our first ever episode of the Jackson File. What a great episode to start out with, Mr. President. As always, I'm Parker Jackson, and you can catch me every night at 9:30 EST, 8:30 CST, right here on Fox News. You can also catch my partner in crime, Michael R. Smith, hosting the Smith Angle a few minutes before. So, go ahead and check us out. We'd love to see y'all watching, and thank you for watching, everybody. Have a great night.